We're going to devote our energies to sports and gardening, all the cultural pursuits as far as they're concerned. In fact, we're going to put the goons to sleep. Meanwhile, we dig.
Greetings and welcome to the Anadromist. This is Burn Power coming to you from Tbilisi, Georgia. And today we're going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to show you some vignettes from over in my Georgian Crossroads channel and kind of put them together. Slightly thematic, cultural things, but more importantly, I know there are people here on this channel who have never gone over there. And so I'd like to catch you up on a few of the things over the last few years that I have explored. So these are 6 vignettes from my time living in Georgia, including a summary of my 5 years being here. Meanwhile, let's just show you a bit of Georgian life, shall we? And the best way to do that is to pretend like we're on the other channel for just a moment. So the first video coming up here is from my explorations of the streets of Tbilisi when I first got here, looking for street art. And I have been fascinated by all the street art I have found. The sound quality on this could be better. It was shot, was it shot during the pandemic? I believe so. At least the general narrative was. But anyway, enjoy it. Street art in Tbilisi, Georgia. Greetings from Tbilisi, Georgia. It's the morning here, about 8:30. Nobody is awake except a few people going to work, and it's the summer, so no one's going to school yet. But today I thought what we'd do is discuss the street art of Georgia. Now, I really love the street art here. Now, what I'm talking about when it comes to street art is not graffiti. There is graffiti here. It seems to be universal now, the kind of thing that started in the South Bronx in the late 70s. And you do see that, and sometimes it defaces really beautiful buildings. I am not going to give anyone's tag any credit here at all, because I consider that stuff to be passé and horrendous at this point. But what I am interested in is the actual works of art that I do find, often on walls that look like someone said, yes, you have my permission to put that work of art there. And so we're going to look at different works of art in the city, and not classical pieces, not sculptures, not that kind of thing, but really things you can tell really are recently commissioned, or in some cases not commissioned at all, works of art. So let's check out the street art of Tbilisi. We'll start with this. And this is kind of interesting. It's just on a walkway going up towards Betsy's Hotel. Betsy's Hotel was one of the first American hotels here in Tbilisi, Georgia. It's still a kind of a classic, nice view of the city, owned by American expat Steve Johnson. I first arrived here for my first visit in 2016, and I was kind of struck by some of the signs that I saw around, like this one, which immediately made me think that this was a pet store for some reason. Then I suddenly realized, it's not a pet store at all. Signs in Georgia kind of go back a ways. There's a kind of a primitivism here, and you can see it in this tailor-made sign, so to speak. A lot of material and fabric went into this on the streets. This is actually on Rustaveli Avenue. Still there. I first saw this a couple of years ago, but I like the primitivism of it. It reminds me a bit, not totally, but of the most famous sign painter that there ever was in Georgia. In fact, the most famous artist of all time in Georgia, Nikos Pyrosmani, who was a primitive artist. Like I say, he was a sign painter. This is his sign for a nice cold beer. His work has a lot of character in it, kind of a flat style. This one here is from a piece called Donkey Bridge, but look at just the kind of the primitivism of the faces. I like the mustache on the guy on the extreme corner there. And here's a closer look at that tailor-made sign. And in fact, it's advertising a tailor. But I love the texture of it. Now, this sign is not a sign for a yoga studio. And it is, again, it's in that spirit of, it's a professional sign, but in the spirit of people just making their own folk art. And this was just a piece of iron grill work. You see grill work all over the place here, but someone just decided to make it again into this little face and body. Kind of cool. Here's some chickens. So yes, you will see kind of funny pieces here. Cats. Some of them influenced by cartoons, others influenced by Pyrosmani and others. This one, I guess someone's love for coffee. What is this, Christian theater or something like that? Now this is, you start to notice something interesting on that one, and it's this stencil technique. And here you have a man and his woman, they seem to be in love, but it's again, this stencil technique. Now interestingly enough, in this one, there's nothing ironic going on. And this kind of looks ironic until you look at it more carefully. This one again. Now, you may start noticing a theme here. And the theme is you will see images of beautiful women quite often in Georgian street art. Sometimes men as well, but more often women. And I think it's because women play an important role in Georgian society. And the dancing that women do is very, very beautiful and graceful. And again, you're not going to find many images of women in kind of jocular form, of sarcastic images of women. It's like very rare to see that sort of thing in Georgia. Instead, what they're really trying to say is that there really is beauty. And so this is like, some sort of high school hoodie or something, but it comes across as being very beautiful. This one I really love. She has these eyes, which are just piercing. I don't know what happened to the mouth, and evidently this thing is starting to fade. And that's one thing I would point out. If you get interested in Georgian street art, take a photo of it. Take as good a photo as you can, because it's not going to last. As you can see with this next one, there's some sort of medieval character, maybe Shota Rustavelli, I'm not sure. The name on the side says El Japaridze, but you can see the cracks running through it. And I started noticing this person's work. I don't know, man or woman, hard to say, El Japaridze. But I started to see these particular images, and then I came across, actually on the same street I live in, this image of a beautiful, kind of sad, somber woman with flowers in her hair, El Japaridze, looks like 2016. And when I looked at it, I noticed there was a door. Sometimes the door is open, and if you went inside, you would suddenly see more. It's like someone said, go ahead and do this. So Japaridze came and painted these images, and I just kept walking into this one pathway to a courtyard, and I kept seeing these. I'm not sure. That looks like something out of a medieval Georgian iconography there. Then there's looks like a black man maybe there, the next one over. But this is not graffiti. And sadly, the first image I showed you of the beautiful, sad woman has already been defaced by someone. They put like a poster with glue on the side and such. But these things don't last. And like I say, if you see them, take photos, because the chances of ever seeing them again decay. Now, I don't know if this is Japaridze. It doesn't quite look like the style, but maybe, but it doesn't look like it finished. This is definitely Japaridze. And you can see, El Japaridze works in a line art style. This one's definitely Japaridze. It's like you got flowers and death. This is just in an alleyway, not far from where I live here, above Rustaveli Square. If you walked up directly above the Rustaveli Square McDonald's, you would find these. And then there's this one, kind of a touching scene. I am sure it tells some story out of Georgian folklore. What? I'm not sure. But you can see also people are defacing these things, which I consider, if someone spends all this time and then someone comes along and defaces it, that's just really low. And people shouldn't do that. But this is one of my favorites here. A couple of very Georgian faces on this. King, is it a king and queen? Something like that. I don't know the story. Here's someone, I don't know if it's Japaridze, kind of a similar line style. The next one is definitely not Japaridze, but it has the line style again, almost like something out of a comic book. It's kind of stunning. It looks like there used to be a club or something called Darami or whatever down there, and it's now closed up, certainly not a club. And then you find other stuff that's hard to classify. Like there's a huge wall that someone painted this rather cryptic, symbolic set of images on. I'm not sure what it all means. I suppose I could study it and try to figure it out, but it's certainly quite stunning. This was painted on the outside of a building that they're working on repairing, and so rather than just have a blank wall, someone put up that art. I'm sure they got permission to do it. This looks almost like art made out of a map, and this is the biggest piece I've ever seen in Georgia. It was like on a huge, it was just a huge building that had this huge work of art on it, and quite clever. Obviously, someone got permission to do this, but the building is empty. I mean, it looks like they started it and never finished it. We call this street art. This isn't graffiti. This is too much. But when I tried to get in to get closer, I was suddenly met by that dog you see on the bottom there, who turned out to be extraordinarily ferocious and was not interested in me at all, except as something to bite. But, you walk along and then you get back to seeing images that basically come out of Pirosmani. The Georgians never get too far from Pirosmani, and certainly in this kind of street art, but even their classical art doesn't get too far from Pirosmani. So I'll just let you enjoy this final image as we get out of here. So have a look, come to Georgia, look for Pirosmani in the museums, but really look for the street art. So, this is Bern, thanking you for coming with me today on my little trip through the street art of Tbilisi. Now, there is a dark side to street art, and it is graffiti. And what's the difference between graffiti and street art? Well, street art is beautiful, and it's in the right places. That is to say, empty walls, structures that look blank. Bad street art and graffiti are in bad places. That is to say, beautiful buildings and just ugly scrawls on the walls. So let's look at that side of the equation. Greetings from Tbilisi, Georgia. This is Bern for Georgian Crossroads. And today I thought what we would do was revisit street art in Tbilisi, except this time it's not really art, it's graffiti. And what's the difference? Well, we're going to discuss that. I did do a unexpected Tbilisi street art exploration earlier, and I'll probably do one again in the future. But when I made that video, a local person said to me, yeah, but you're not saying graffiti is good. And I knew what they meant. And that is to say that there is a difference, and it's hard to define. Sometimes the very same people who are street artists are also graffiti artists. I look at graffiti as being something which defaces, whereas street art is something which enhances. If you have a blank industrial space, or if you get permission to put something on a wall, a blank dead industrial space or something like that, yeah, you can paint something and maybe add something to it. As you can see here in this underground passageway to the entrance of the Baratashvili Bridge. A lot of interesting artwork in this area here. I'm pretty sure it was all done by official commission. It looks really well done. Occasionally you'll see someone having graffitied over a real work of art. I mean, I don't necessarily like all the art, but it certainly does make a statement, and it's something I appreciate. And I think graffiti does something very different. Graffiti isn't something like this, which really adds to the meaning of a place. But rather, graffiti is something like this. There's a tag here, I won't even bother saying the name. It's just a guy defacing this building, the Academy of Sciences, also the Kino House, the Cinema House, along Rustaveli Avenue, and we're going to go here a little further. And what I want to do is I want to show you what happens when graffiti just gets out of hand. Now this building, as you can see, is an old Stalinist Gothic building. In fact, I'm going to pull up a photograph at a certain point and show you what the building looks like. But people sell things. Sometimes these are for tourists, sometimes they're things that people need. For instance, people sell painting supplies here. There's several painting supply stores in the area because the Academy of the Arts is nearby. When I first came here and I went in to see the building we're about to go look at, and it had one or two pieces of graffiti, and a year and a half ago it was like that. And my friend June said he'd come there 2 years earlier and there was none of them. So we're coming up to this building. Now you can see the bits of graffiti. I mean, look at these beautiful columns. I like this old Stalinist Gothic architecture. The Academy officially starts in 1941. I don't know if the building was built then. Probably not, because that was in the middle of the war. But it was probably built during Stalin's era. And then you come to this building. Now, what is this building? This is what it looked like before being defaced. And it was an aerial tramway entrance, what the Georgians often call a ropeway. And it, as you can see, it's got this ornate grill work on it. If you went inside, unfortunately I couldn't find a really good photo, but this gives you an idea of what it was like during the late Soviet period. And look at the curlicues and the grill work and the way the walkway just goes up and up and up. Now, there was a tragedy that occurred in the year 1990, starting with but look at this red line here, shows the line that the tramway went all the way to the top of Matatsaminda Mountain. There is also a funicular that goes up there. But there was a tragedy, and this tragedy was in 1990. The cable which brought the thing together, it was like a very, very long cable, snapped. And the two cars that were on it at the same time fell apart. 20 people died, and 15 people were injured. This is one of the old towers which is no longer there. They're pulling it apart here, but that's what this building was. It was the entrance to this amazing tram line, which had this tragedy in 1990. Now, Georgia went into a period of complete collapse, basically, in the 1990s. But this building looked like it did Up until a couple of years back, about 3 or 4 years ago, it still had no markings on it. Maybe a couple on the outside, but nothing really. And then what happened was an entrance was found, and then graffiti artists decided this was their building. And this is where I draw the line. And there are, interestingly enough, some street art inside the building, going all the way up that round walkway going up. The whole thing is covered in street art, sometimes by this very artist that I like. I guess it was just too juicy a target to ignore. But there is a limit. And the part of the limit is that underground passageway I showed you before had nothing on it. It was a dead industrial type of space. Perfect place for street art. This, why would you deface this? I mean, Stalinist Gothic is not the greatest style in the world, but this totally matches the mood of Tbilisi. It could have been a building used for something really amazing, but instead, well, it has the worst kind of graffiti here, just the someone just writing whatever on it. It's also got tags on it, larger tags inside. And to clean this up would cost, in American money, it would cost millions of dollars. Had they not done this, they would have saved millions of dollars. So the people who do this, to me, it shows a disrespect for everything. It shows a disrespect for life. Because if you can't see this is a beautiful building, you can't see. I mean, it's a very interesting looking building. So I went over there during the middle of the winter before the restrictions came on for the pandemic, and I took these shots. Not that I couldn't have done that during the pandemic, and I certainly could, but it was worse than it was last time. Now this is me peeking inside through one of the holes, and you can see, I mean, there's a lot of tags. I mean, that's not bad art, but then again, who cares? It's defacing, it's just ruining the structure, making it so that it becomes an eyesore, it becomes just something, it goes from being something that brings beauty and life to the city to being something that takes it away. Now there's a couple of young girls who are walking up there. That's the hole by which they get in. Obviously, you've got to be pretty small, high school student or university student. Now, this is what happens when the world is taken over by graffiti artists. This is actually really new. This is after the George Floyd protests in Seattle, in the place that was originally called the Chaz, now called the Chop. And this shows you, it's a bit on the obscene side, but this is what happens when you just say, yeah, take over every square space. You can do whatever you want. You destroy the meaning. Not that these are beautiful buildings by any means, but the point is, everything here just screams hatred. So I hope it's clear. I am not against street art, good street art. But when you have random graffiti, I find tags at this point to be hopelessly outdated and basically a sign of bragging. And it doesn't mean anything anymore. That I think what happens is that you have the breakdown of civil institutions in those areas. They don't add to the life of the city or the beauty of a place. They detract from it. They destroy it. And so I want to encourage the beauty of a city, the beauty of art. But I do not want to encourage the ugliness that often goes along with so much graffiti, tearing down something that is beautiful. There ought to be rules. And among those rules is, hey, if it's a beautiful building, leave it alone. You have no right to deface it. So this is another look inside the underground passage. I really like the baboon or mandrill, whatever it is, at the end here. But again, there's something, this is where street art comes to life. But a world taken over just by the most simplistic, ugly, proud, boastful graffiti, you know, where people are just saying obscene things, drawing obscene things. That is a nightmare for the world. Now, I've already made one video on street art, and after I made it, a friend of mine said, yeah, but what about the graffiti? And I realized, okay, I'm going to have to, and I thought about the building, the aerial tramway building between the Academy of Science and the Kino House. Someday I'll make another part 2 of the street art, but can't always say pleasant things. So this is Bern in Tbilisi, Georgia, hoping you are weathering 2020 thoughtfully. So one day I said to myself, I need to do something different for the channel. And I remember seeing something like abandoned trains off the side of the metro when it was going on an overpass out towards the section of Tbilisi called Didube. And I said, okay, let's get out and see if we can find that. And that's what this next video is, an exploration looking for and finding a dead train yard here in Tbilisi. Well, greetings and welcome to Georgian Crossroads. This is Burn Power, and today, as you can tell, we are exploring abandoned trains. I've found an abandoned train yard here in Tbilisi. Yeah, this is unexpected Tbilisi for you. So come along with me. First we have to try to find this place. How are we going to do that? I'll give you a hint. This is the Gotsaridze stop, which is under construction and it looks like it will be for many years. I am looking for a train yard. I've seen from the one place that the metro goes above ground. I've seen a lot of old beat up engines there, and I am looking for it. Find the abandoned train yard. Get on the metro, go to the Didube stop, go to the left once you get out to the area where the bazaar and all of the transportation is, the marshrukas and stuff. Head hard left, and then follow this pattern through these corridors, through the parking lot, through the corridors, and then just keep going straight. You'll find the railroad tracks. I did try to get some footage of an abandoned building or unfinished building. At least it seemed to be some sort of government building, because there was a man who came out and basically told me, stop what you're doing. He didn't pursue it any further, and then I just walked around. I filmed some more on the side because he wasn't coming around to where the train was. So the train tracks went directly behind this unfinished modernist nightmare of a building. And these are the train tracks, overgrown, but this is the way to go. So I'm walking down these train tracks, which are bizarre. It's just completely overgrown in the middle of the city. Fortunately, I don't feel the presence of dogs. But it's a long way. I'm getting burrs from the weeds in my shoes. And there's not much back here. It's just completely overgrown. I kind of feel lost. If I didn't know, I can't possibly be lost. I know where I am. But, where will I ever get back to the main drag that I'm trying to get to? I'm looking for an overpass that I see people walking. See, there's a station, I think it's something like Gogolidze. And they're working on it right now. If I could get out at that station, it would be really easy to get to the trains, I think, unless they would force you to walk over them, which is what it looks like it does. I saw a crane overhead that I thought was the walkway, but it isn't. But now I'm at the walkway. It's a very long aerial walkway over the trains. Never touches the ground. There's a couple people walking over it now. But here are the abandoned trains. They are obviously trains. Some of them have lots of graffiti. They are trains that are no longer used. They're old looking. Some of them rusty. Well, we're going to go and explore. Really tempted to go inside these, and some of the steps to get up are quite steep, so I didn't do it this time, but I will be going back. Graffiti on the sides of the trains, and if you look straight up, you'll see the overpass, the walkway going over everything. Junk inside of freight cars. I wanted to go down this way. This was all blackberry bushes with super sharp thorns, and there were easier ways to get down there, so I didn't go that direction. A train passes. And then I did find a way into one of the cars. I thought, great, I'm going to explore one of these abandoned coach cars. And so I enter, and what happens? I find out there's someone living in there. So I politely backed out. I tried to get into the place where all the broken engines were, but there were a couple of guys working on cars there, and truthfully, they didn't look like they would care, but I would rather be there when I don't see anybody. I'm not really afraid of going into the place, obviously, as I've been crawling around inside of all sorts of ins and outs here, and there's so much more to explore here. You can just see the line of broken vehicles going down for ages. I mean, it would take weeks and weeks to explore all of these vehicles. It takes a certain kind of person. You kind of have to have the Tom Sawyer point of view. And it turns out walking the way I came is the fastest way. I thought I would get to the Nadzala metro going over the overpass. But I stopped and asked a couple of girls, and they basically pointed and said, nope, wrong way. But I said, okay, Dudube. And they said, yes. So Dudube, back to Dudube it is. Well, I must say, doing stuff like this is what keeps me going here, finding new little areas of Tbilisi. And this is one no one told me about. I just kind of figured it out for myself. I'm glad I did. So now I need to get back onto the train. 3 or 4 stops, I'm back home in about 10 minutes. It only seems like a long way from nowhere, but in fact, all these buildings here have people in them. And all I have to do is get off this train track, and I'm somewhere again. I hope you had an interesting time. This is probably someplace, I would say this is advanced level Tbilisi. You're not going to come, walk around looking for the very Georgian things and look for this. But if you're stuck here for a little while longer, this is where you need to come for something very different. I'm often fascinated by the architecture, and I could make this whole video nothing but architectural finds. But this is just one small thing that I kept noticing. It's this very strange house, mansion. You could barely glimpse it, but I had to see if I could get closer to it. And it's the Ana Madatova House. Greetings and welcome to Georgian Crossroads. This is Byrne, your host, working feverishly into the night, the day before New Year's Eve, to give you one last glimpse of Tbilisi. And today what we're going to do is something very, very mysterious. There is a house called the Ana Madatova House, which is on Chunkadze Street. And it's a very mysterious place. And so I'm going to take you there. We're going to look at it. I've got some images that I've found. And there are different rumors about why the house is there, ranging from the prosaic to the very mysterious. So come along with me. I first noticed the Ana Madatova House from my friend's stairway, and I looked across and saw this strange building outside the window, and you could just get a glimpse of it. There was a cedar tree in front of it. And yet, when you went outside, this is all you saw. There's a very high tower, a spire, on the other side of this massive wall. But what was it doing? My friend told me that it was the house of a woman named Ana Madatova, which had some legends around it, some of which are are just that, legends. But yet it was built during a period where Tbilisi was, I would say, the Art Nouveau period in Tbilisi. If you were to come to Tbilisi between 1890 and about 1921, to be precise, it would be a very fascinating architectural town. Unfortunately, graffiti like that, it tells you a bit of what's happened since post-Soviet independence. But nevertheless, you're walking along these kind of anonymous streets, and you're right under it. You don't see it. So walking along this old wall, it's like a castle. And you come to a doorway, which is just up ahead here. You look inside, and what do you see? Well, there's the door. It's shut. But I'm seeing more of it now than I did when I first saw it. It just looked like this. And there was no way to get in. But you look up, and you get the idea that there's a building back there. And so I decided to walk back up the street. And tried to get up above. And again, coming in close, you get these hints of something. So I went back to where the graffiti was, which unfortunately blights too many really beautiful places like this. This should be restored and not defaced. But I looked up, and through the trees, just barely make them out, there is a building back there. So I went back a little further and found a stairway that goes up to a street above the building. And this stairway runs alongside, well, not exactly alongside the building. There's a little wooded area here on the side of the hill, but I could just barely get a glimpse of it through the trees. If you look really carefully, you can see it there, but it's just in silhouette. And I stopped at a place where there was a park, and this is perfect. I mean, someone took the time to make beautiful art, and then someone tags over it. Nice street art tagged over by someone who just wants to prove something to themselves. That's the problem when you don't have a strong sense of your own worth. But that's another issue. There's the building. You see it. So I walked through the woods, tried to get closer to it, and I could just barely see it. I had to finally climb a tree. So I'm further up in the tree. There's my hand. And I can just barely see it, but I can't quite see the tower. But that's as close as I can get from this angle. I would try a different angle in a bit. This is what's so mysterious about this, is that you can't see it from the street, and yet it's an amazing building, and I never did quite get into the structure itself. Now here's a better glimpse of the tower, and if you look carefully, the top is kind of falling over. That is, it's bent, the little spire there, and this is like a lookout way on top, and that's as close as I ever got to the building. But I still had to try another way. So I went back. This gives you a better view. It's taken a little bit later when there are a little bit fewer leaves on the trees. But you're only seeing the very top of the building. legend that was made by a man who was grieving for his daughter. And, but that legend really has no merit. But this is actually on the road behind it, and that's all you can see from the other road above it. And so I came back down on another day, and this is actually on the door going in. All of this ornate scroll work that was part of the Art Nouveau period. And it really looks like a fascinating piece of architecture that's been abandoned. And down below is the word salve. And it was open, and this is looking up the stairway again. Oh, it's like road to nowhere. I'm sorry. This is a road to somewhere, and you shouldn't deface it. You should repaint it and make it look better. I didn't go all the way up these stairs, and the reason I didn't is because there were workmen up there who were doing something, and I wasn't sure how far it would go for me to go up there and stick my nose into it. But I'm told it's been turned into apartments, and maybe even part of it is a hotel. But I'm afraid it might be just really clumsily turned into apartments. Now, if you go to this visitgeorgia.com, you can see more pictures that are better than the ones I took, and a little bit of a story about it. But again, there isn't much that is said. It's just that, nice building, left in ruins, and what ruins they are. But I recommend, if you're here, to try to look for the building. You will find it as mysterious and interesting to kind of try to get in there and go up the stairway, see how far you get. I decided not to go back and keep trying to go in. But here is where it is on the map. The Ana Madatova House. And it's just off Chankadze Street, Daniel Chankadze Street. And this is the satellite view of it. And it looks like a rather big place, don't you think? Now, if you want to get there, what I suggest you doing is going back down to Liberty Square and click down to Liberty Square here. Liberty Square will be on the upper right of the screen, and you can walk 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 blocks up the hill and get a look at this yourself. So what do you think? Kind of a mysterious place. You can hardly see it from the road at all. It's like a castle on Chankadze Street. And when you're in Tbilisi, walk up from Liberty Square and go look for it. It'll be worth your time. And Sololaki, the area it's in, is well worth spending time wandering around in. And we'll eventually come back and do more odds and ends of architecture here in Tbilisi. But for now, I just want to wish you Gilisat Ahal Tsels. Happy New Year. And recently I made a video where I climbed up the side of the mountain near my house, which I don't think it's Matatsuminda, which is the mountain that was behind my first apartment here. But it's, I don't know the name of the area. We'll just call it the Vlake Mountain for short. But I didn't hike up. I took a special means of transportation up, but I did hike down and get lost while kind of reminiscing about what it's been like spending 5 years in Georgia. up on the Turtle Lake Road. Just got off the what they call the ropeway, the tramway, cable car, gondola, teleferique. What do they call these things? There's so many different names. The car that drags you by a wire up into the side of the mountains. I'm looking out over the city, and I can actually see the snow-capped peaks of the Greater Caucasus today, including Mount Kazbegi, over all of it, and it is quite a sight. There's a bit of a wisp of cloud in the air, but there's also blue, and it's quite a day. I took the ropeway up here to basically walk down the hill. It's a quick exercise. I go from the city streets, Chavchavadze Avenue, 2 blocks from my home, all the way down to my home. I think it takes probably about 45 minutes to an hour. But what I'm doing is kind of going over the year for myself, as well as making a little bit of audio for my channel. I'll probably take some of this and use it on the channel. This French girl, probably about 13 years old, just drove by me. I heard her on the phone talking probably to her mother. We had to wait about 20 minutes to get on the ropeway.
ნახვით შემიყვარდი ყროყინად გოხდა მარო აბა მითხარო შენობით როგორ უნდა გავიხარო დაგლიდა ლალო და ჯან გაგომე და შენ თუ გლიდა ლალო და შენ მიყვარხარ ჩემომზეო მეც მიყვარხარ შენს გიყვარვა აქ როგორ გავიცხოვროდო იქ წავიდეთ თბილისია ინსტიტუტში ვისწავლოდო დაგლიდა ლალო და ჯან გაგომე და შენ თუ გლიდა ლალო და შენ მიყვარხარ ჩემომზეო იქ რომ წავალ თბილისია ვიქირა ოქტომბერდაო აი გიჩუსტი ლამპის დაგლო შავი ძინო თოხრათაო დაგლიდა ლალო და ჯან გაგომე და შენ თუ გლიდა ლალო და შენ მიყვარხარ ჩემომზეო შენ რომ ინსტიტუტში წახვალ მე დავრჩები სახლშიაო საღამო ხან ვისეირნოთ ბლეხანოვსკი ბახშიაო დაგლიდა ლალო და ჯან გაგომე და შენ თუ გლიდა ლალო და შენ მიყვარხარ ჩემომზეო დაგლიდა ლალო და ჯან გაგომე და შენ თუ გლიდა ლალო და შენ მიყვარხარ ჩემომზეო დაგლიდა ლალო და ჯან გაგომე და შენ თუ გლიდა ლალო და შენ მიყვარხარ ჩემომზეო კარგად
Now I am looking for the pathway to go down here. I am on the road. This could be it here. There's a turnoff. This might be it. I'll see it in a second. Yeah, I think so. It's got looks like a trail. It's a break in the steel. It was a bicycle ramp. Looked like it was good for if you're coming fast enough for jumping. There was a man who came up to it, stopped, and then kind of decided to go around. He was older. I get it. I would have gone over slowly, personally. Right now I'm walking on the mountain bike trail, so I'm watching out for that French girl who might be behind me, because this other guy, I don't know where it started, but I got off the paved road as soon as I could. This feels like a brand new trail practically. This is nice. Much gladder I'm going down it than going up it. But in the future I'll go down the other bicycle trail and see which way that goes. Like I say, I'm realizing I can just take the ropeway up to the Turtle Lake. I haven't availed myself that often of this. But I really like living here. That's the main thing. I have made more friends, and my friendships have gotten stronger. That isn't to say I always understand how Georgians conduct their friendships, but I'm glad it's pretty deep. Once you actually get connected to someone, you pretty much stay friends with them. And that has made living here very important for me. And I have no regrets about living here. The only thing I have any subtle regrets about is that my library isn't here. What it is this is the rest of your life. Standing right here. You don't get to move. There's nothing else. Okay.
Let's get this moving.
There goes the ropeway just over me. Okay, I'm going a different way. Found a downhill path. Let's see what this goes. Looks like I'm going straight into a lot of thorns. Now we have to figure it out. Alright, I admit defeat. The thorns were way too thick. I did see a road, but the trail just turned into nothing. I admit it, I was lost. Okay, I found the main trail again. It's definitely a bike trail, although I just heard past a motorcyclist coming up one of these. And this is what I was looking for, but evidently the other one wasn't it. Well, I'm certainly getting my exercise in today. So I am near the back end of the Victory statue, which is a good sign. So what has it been like to be in Georgia for 5 years? And since I've already said this recently, what it was like to be here for 4 years, I'm not going to keep saying it. I guess I didn't have the patience to wait for the 5th year, but I wanted to do something. I'm not going to go over all those things, the changes in my mentality and such, but I would say that I've come to realize that Georgia is the place that I belong. I've made excellent friends here, the kind of people who I feel do care for me, even if they're not always present because Georgians get so busy. I feel they care for me in many different ways, and I can have excellent conversations. I can take part in cultural events which would be too expensive in, say, New York City, where I used to live, and non-existent in smaller towns. A town this size, we'll say 1.5 million, just for whatever reason. It's hard to know for sure. That size town in America would not have nearly the cultural institutions and artists that a town like this has. And while I didn't do a lot this year, last year I went out twice into the world, once to Prague, once to Berlin and Germany. Before that, I hadn't gone anywhere for 3 years, but now my 5th year is over, and I think that I made the right choice. The only huge thing really hanging over my head is whether I can get my library from Alaska and get it all the way here, which I'm in the middle of doing. I've raised over $7,000 of my $12,000 goal, but I can't do anything until I get the whole amount. So if you're listening to this and it's not March of 2024 yet, you can still contribute. There are links below to GoFundMe, which will work anywhere, and PayPal if you have a PayPal account. And but I am grateful. I'm also grateful, even though I didn't make as many videos this year as I should have. I promise there will be more, and I appreciate everything. From Georgia, this is Byrne saying, "Throw a beat. Temporarily. We'll meet you later. Nachwandis." And finally, here is something which does not appear on my Georgian Crossroads channel. It's a short vignette. This is just sitting in my house one day. It was, I believe, kind of like late summer, maybe towards the early fall. And I started hearing men singing outside of my house in the backyard. Well, they weren't in the backyard. They were in someone's house. And they were having what's called a supra. A supra is a ritual traditional meal. And during these meals, there's often singing. And these men had very good voices. And so what I did was I said, let me just set the camera out for a minute off my back window, turn up the recording, see if I can capture a bit of it. And so this is just a bit of what I was listening to off the back of my house in the courtyard, what they call the Ezo here in Tbilisi. And I hope you enjoy it. And we will return. This is Byrne from Georgia saying, Droabit, we will meet again. Nachwandis. I've been listening to a Supra and men singing in one of the apartments in the courtyard all evening. It is magnificent to hear real human voices singing. Yes, the modern world has shown up here, but it has not dimmed the joy of Georgian music yet. And I don't think it ever I still need help with my rescue library fundraiser. I keep trying to come up with new ideas for it. And I've had a lot of help so far, almost $8,000, but I can't do it until I get to $12,000 at least. Because if I don't get that amount, it's like I've only gotten part of the way. So I've gotten the container from Seattle to... So I've gotten the container from Seattle, Washington, to Poti in the Black Sea in Georgia. I've almost got the library in the container to go down from Haines, Alaska to Seattle, Washington. And I still have to get myself there to do the project. And I need to get the things from the Black Sea coast to my house through customs, all of which will cost more money. So, links down below. Do support that.
A people without history is not redeemed from time. For history is a pattern of timeless moments.
Thank you.